This video is brought to you by Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC in Opelika. Get ready to smile.
Hello, baseball fans. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Hey everybody, and thank you for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. The Braves are officially in spring training, which means we have quite a bit to talk about. We got roster questions. We know some of the guys that are going to start on opening day. A lot of questions surrounding returns of star players and who's going to fill those slots until those guys return. And of course, what happens after Spencer Strider and Ronald Acuna return. But before we get started, please do us a favor. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. We just recently hit 6,000 subscribers, so thank you for that. Really do appreciate it. Also, please do hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything going on here at On Deck, from spring training, hopefully all the way to the World Series. So let's go ahead and start talking about this roster. Let's start with starting pitching. And we know three of the guys are locks, no doubt about it, for opening day. Chris Sale, Spencer Schwellenbach, Reynaldo Lopez all had really good years last year. No reason to think, pending health, that they won't be locks for the rotation. But that leaves two spots. Of course, we all know Spencer Strider is going to come back at some point. But those two spots have to be filled, no doubt about it. And I think the top candidate for that as of right now is Ian Anderson. That's who the Braves elected to allow to start for the first game of spring training. It didn't go particularly well. He only threw 1 2/3. He gave up 3 walks, I think a hit, 2, a run. It didn't go as well as he would have hoped, no doubt about it, but it's first game of spring training. You got to knock off the rust. He also hasn't faced big league hitters in a couple of years now. That was honestly a win for Ian Anderson in my book, just to be back on the mound in a big league scenario. He spoke after the game. I watched it. He talked about, as velocity improves, the changeup will improve, and I think that's true. But we'll have to keep an eye on him. And look, I hope it pans out. I think Ian Anderson would be a fine fit for the rotation, especially if he can get back to what he once did, what he once was able to do. I think that'll be really nice. Now, that fifth spot is going to create some questions because obviously people are going to compete for that. But even whoever wins it, it's a temporary fix, right? It's a temporary spot for them because we know Strider's coming back. The top 3 candidates in my book are Grant Holmes, A.J. Smith-Shawver, and Bryce Elder. Now, a lot of people are talking about Grant Holmes, and I get it. The guy was terrific out of the bullpen last year. He was great in spot starts here and there, but I think that's a really valuable asset that you don't really want to lose out of your bullpen. If it's up to me, Grant Holmes starts the season, finishes the season in the bullpen, maybe has a spot start here and there. He could prove me wrong. He could earn his way to the rotation if he wants to do that. But if I'm Brian Snitker, I'm really trying to keep him in the bullpen and be able to pull that card of a guy who can cover multiple innings, a guy who can possibly start a game out of nowhere if needed. I like that card in the bullpen if I can have it, and that's my take. So between A.J. Smith-Shawver, Bryce Elder, it's all about who has a better spring training. I mean, A.J. Smith-Shawver is a prospect who has all the potential in the world in my book. We've talked about him exponentially on this channel. Bryce Elder is a guy who was an all-star in 23. He could for sure do that again. It's all about who shows up and does what in spring training. We'll have to see. If I had a pick, I would probably go A.J. Smith-Shawver. That's a guy who, when called upon, has been really good. He's got playoff experience. He also, last year had a pretty good start, I think back in May, got hurt and never came back. I personally think there's no reason to think that he couldn't live up to the expectations. But same could be said for Bryce Elder. We'll, again, just have to wait and see. That takes us, of course, to the bullpen. Because really, when it comes to opening day, the bullpen does have a lot of question marks, but you also have some locks. You have some guys that we know are going to be there. Raisel Iglesias, Pierce Johnson, Dylan Lee, Aaron Bummer, Daysbel Hernandez, they're all for sure going to be there, and I would add Grant Holmes to that list. So that takes you all the way to 11 spots on the pitching side of things filled. So that leaves you with 2 spots really in the bullpen that are questionable. They're going to be competed over. I think there are 2 favorites as of right now. based on what we're hearing. I think Angel Perdomo goes without saying. Lefty arm, coming off of Tommy John surgery. He did not pitch last year, so they're going to see how he does in spring training for sure. But I do think he is a really good possibility. It helps that he's a lefty. He had a really good season prior to the Tommy John surgery, so I think he's likely. I think he's a likely fit. And really, your left-handed pitching took a big hit with A.J. Minter leaving, so again, that kind of helps boost Angel Perdomo's value in the bullpen for the Braves. So we'll have to see how it goes. Speaking of left-handed pitching in the pen, Dylan Lee, I think, is going to have a breakout year this year. I've said it for a couple of years now, but being that A.J. Minter has departed for New York, that really opens up a window for Dylan Lee to step into that upper echelon of the bullpen. Because for Dylan Lee, this is a guy who's been optioned to AAA, not anything to do with his performance, more to do with how the roster shook out. Whether that's fair or not, it is what it is. It's a business. But this is a guy, I think, who's ready to show that he is as advertised and could be really good. When called upon, he's been terrific. I really think he's going to be a staple in the pen this year, and we're gonna know for sure that, look, when Dylan Lee comes in, it's over. I think he's going to step out. Aaron Bummer, I think he's going to be a dependable lefty reliever. He's going to be a guy to keep an eye on. We got him. We signed him to, I think, a 3 or 4 year deal. So the Braves believe in this guy. We'll have to see how it translates in 2025. When it comes to that final spot, there's really no favorite. People have brought up Anderson Pilar, though. Guy had a really good Dominican League stretch. Could have a really good 2025. We'll have to see, again, how he shakes out in spring training. But there's a lot of guys that are going to be competing for that spot. There's really no guarantee. My personal favorite is Jordan Weems, just because he went to high school down the street. He's from my hometown. I would love that. But really, it's going to be competed over, and we're gonna have a lot of fun watching and seeing how that goes. But really, I think personally, there's no favorite for that final spot. I think Grant Holmes makes the most sense in the bullpen. If you don't have Grant Holmes in the pen, you have 2 spots, and then you can go wild and crazy in the bullpen. But a lot of ways this can shake out. But really, if you're going to be fair and make a roster for 2025, an opening day roster for the Braves this year just doesn't make a lot of sense. And I'll tell you why. Because, again, we know that Ronald Acuna and Spencer Strider are going to come back. And as soon as Strider comes back, the entire pitching landscape changes, right? Because in your starting rotation alone, that's a spot filled. So in theory, you'd go Chris Sale, Spencer Strider, Spencer Schwellenbach, Reynaldo Lopez. Then you got that 5th spot being competed over Ian Anderson, AJ Smith-Shawver, Bryce Elder, and potentially Grant Holmes. You could have an interesting scenario there, which is why I think Grant Holmes makes the most sense in the pen, especially long term. You could have a rotation with really 5 solid arms, which, to give that some credit, I didn't think that was going to happen earlier this year. I mean, I got on here and spoke with you guys about it. I was concerned about the rotation. I really thought that the Braves needed to sign somebody. They still could, if they don't trust that 5th option. But I was really concerned. But the fact that Spencer Schwellenbach and Reynaldo Lopez really stepped out last year helps the Braves not only financially but also in the roster build, because they don't have to worry so much about Charlie Morton and about Max Fried's departure. They can really maneuver within the organization itself. The fact that Chris Sale had a Cy Young Award-winning year last year also helps that tremendously. The fact that Ian Anderson is coming back and is healthy, they're going to take a chance on that. And really, the depth helps as well, because you do have Grant Holmes that you could call upon just to get you maybe to the trade deadline if you feel that you may need to make a move for a starter. But it's a very interesting case, because when Strider comes back, Grant Holmes is automatically going to go to the pen if he's not already, and it's just one less spot. Ian Anderson, AJ Smith-Shawver, Bryce Elder, that'll be interesting to watch. So it'll be interesting to see what happens once Acuna and Strider come back. But really, I think the Braves are going to be fine even without them. Temporarily, I think it's going to be a shorter stint than we originally thought, too, because, we're already seeing Strider throw bullpens. We're seeing Acuna run bases and take batting practice. it's already been said that neither one will be available on opening day. That could mean they come up the second game of the year. I mean, what does that really mean? I think it's more likely that it'll be a couple of weeks, or maybe even a month, but I don't think it'll be quite as long as we originally expected or worried that it would be. So a lot to take in there, but personally, I think the Braves are in a much better spot than we originally thought. When we get back, we're going to take a look, speaking of Ronald Acuna, we're going to take a look at the position players, break down that part of the roster, and really dive into what happens once Acuna is back, what happens before he returns, and how that's going to shake out. So stay with us. That's next.
In 2025, we're hammering down high prices at Glenn Smith GMC in Opelika. New GMC Sierra 4x4 crew cabs, discounted up to $12,000 off. GMC Terrain with a roomy cabin and pro safety, discounted up to $7,000 off. Enjoy the new year with no payments for 120 days. Choose from over 500 new and used vehicles on the lot or on the way. GlennSmith.com. Get ready to smile.
Welcome back, everybody. Again, thank you for being here. Really do appreciate it. Let's go ahead and get into the position players, because this is one that is going to catch some interest, I'm sure, with the addition of Ronald Acuna at some point. Before Acuna returns, it's pretty simple. He's the one thing that's missing, because we did sign Jurickson Profar. Left field, we know, will be Jurickson Profar. Center field will, of course, be Michael Harris. Right field is where it really gets kind of interesting. The entire infield, we already know. Matt Olson, Ozzie Albies, Orlando Arcia, Austin Riley, Sean Murphy will be the starting catcher. We'll talk about catcher in a second, but right field is where it's going to be really interesting in the early part of the season until Acuna returns. You do have Jared Kelenic returning. The Braves did sign Brian De La Cruz. They will likely platoon as a righty-lefty combination in right field until Acuna does return, unless one just steps out and is having a terrific start to the season, which I think with Kelenic, that's very possible. We saw how streaky he was last year. It'd be great if he was on a really high bar to start the year, and then Acuna comes back and he can step right in. And then you have Kelenic off the bench, Brian De La Cruz off the bench as a lefty-righty combination. You do have an open spot there that we don't really know what's going to be there. It's going to be competed over, maybe a Luke Williams, whatever. A lot of people are looking at Nick Allen as a bench infielder. He's out of options, so that makes the most sense. If he's worth keeping, if the Braves view him as worth keeping, he'll have to be on the opening day roster. But there is still one spot there open until Acuna comes back. That will be competed over. Again, maybe a Luke Williams, maybe, other prospects, maybe a Drake Baldwin. I know a lot of people are keeping an eye on him, which brings me to the catcher conversation. I saw a video, I think it was 680 today, where they're talking about Drake Baldwin taking over the starting role over Sean Murphy. I don't know if I'd go that far. I mean, I think Sean Murphy could very well return and be an all-star. I mean, I think he's that caliber of player, but he hasn't got off to the best of starts with the Braves over the past couple of years through injuries and, through tough play and that kind of thing. I mean, they could be looking for a change. I even think, and this is no knock on Sean Murphy, but I've heard it a ton that, we shouldn't have traded William Contreras. And look, over the past couple of years, I can't argue with that. But I also think Sean Murphy has all the potential to break out and be a level of player as to a Matt Olson. When healthy, he's been fine. But I think he can be great. I really do. His likely backup to start the year, we've been talking about Drake Baldwin. I think his most likely backup will be Chadwick Tromp. We've seen Chadwick at the major league level. He handles pitching staffs really well. His bat is, leaves some to be desired. But I think at least temporarily he'll be your backup. And look, this is where the Braves decided not to invest. They decided not to bring back Travis d'Arnaud. Which was an interesting call. At the time, it was, what? They're doing what? And rightfully so. It surprised me. I know it surprised some of you. The Braves have elected to give Sean Murphy that chance and to not spend that $8 million that they would have spent on d'Arnaud on something else maybe down the road, maybe on even Jurickson Profar. So they allocated resources to another department. Now, catcher, they really believe in this Drake Baldwin kid, which is probably a lot to do with why they didn't bring back Travis d'Arnaud, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to impact the start of this season, right? Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that. It could be down the road that they really buy into Drake Baldwin as the backup catcher or maybe the starting catcher. What I will say is they also really believed in Sean Murphy. They signed him long-term to a big-time deal. I say big-time deal relative to the Braves organization, a big-time deal. So that could go a lot of different ways. I would be surprised if they jumped the gun and brought Drake Baldwin up to start the season. But I would not be surprised if, by June, if he's at least at the MLB level. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. I mean, this is a guy that we've heard about really for a long time. So we'll have to see how it goes. But I think to start the year, you're going to have Matt Olson, Ozzie Albies, Orlando Arcia, Austin Riley, Marcell Ozuna, Sean Murphy, Chadwick Tromp, Michael Harris, Jerickson Profar, Jared Kelenic, Brian De La Cruz, and Nick Allen. And then, of course, an empty spot that will be competed over in spring training. It's. I don't want to give you a name and it be, gone in a week. I want to give you, it's open. That's the real reality of it, is that it's open. So we'll have to see who wins it. I think Nick Allen is likely, again, because we need an infielder off the bench and he's out of options. So I think that argument is valid. But beyond that, there's no real favorite, I don't believe, to go to the MLB level. We'll have to wait and see. So that's how I think it shakes out. Again, it's spring training. There's spots to be filled. We're going to have to wait and see who wins out. It's going to be exciting, and I can't wait to see how it goes. And before we get out of here, please do us a favor, like the video if you have not already. Again, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything going on here at On Deck. Also, if you would do us a favor, comment what you think the roster is going to look like. If you think I got something wrong, or if you wanted to fill one of those gaps, let me know in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love any feedback you could give me. It's going to be a long road during spring training, and it's going to be a lot of different changes, so let me know what you think. I'd love to hear it. And again, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date here at On Deck, and of course, with your Atlanta Braves. And one last thank you tonight. Please do go check out Glenn Smith Chevrolet. They are great sponsors of us. They've been doing it for a long time. And look, they love your business. I'm sure if you're in the market for a vehicle, check out glennsmith.com. And of course, thank you to Glenn Smith for sponsoring the channel. With that said, guys, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time right here at On Deck.
Baseball fans, make sure you like and share this video and subscribe to this channel. As always, thank you for your support.